Get ready for some upbeat banter, plenty of laughs, and a whole lot of love for the game and our team. This is Buds and Blue Jays. And now your hosts, Riley McConnell and Jesse Burrell.
Oh, good evening, everyone. It is Monday, May 6th, and welcome to episode 176 of Buds and Blue Jays, your place for all things related to the Toronto Blue Jays. As usual, I'm Jesse Burrell, and today I am not joined by my usual co-host, Riley McConnell. Riley McConnell is on the West Coast. Who knows? Maybe he's doing some scouting, going to Vancouver, checking out the Vancouver Canadians down there. So instead, we bring up our friend, passionate Blue Jays fan, very active on social media. You know him. He's been on the show before. It's Jesse 2.0. Jesse Teriso, my man. Welcome back to the show.
Glad to be back, and also a passionate Bisons fan who pretty much should be on the main roster, but we'll go into that later.
Excellent. We'll get into all of that in this episode. I will say the Bison's gear looks really sharp. Looks a lot better than some of the Blue Jays outfits that they got going on here, but that's a story for another day. Today on our episode, guys, it's doom and gloom for the Toronto Blue Jays. We have now lost 4 straight series. This one to the Washington Nationals, who I might add are not a good team, tried to throw us games in this series, and the Blue Jays simply just could not take advantage of it. Our playoff odds have dropped to under 25%, 4th lowest in the American League. We'll touch on that in this episode, and we'll also talk Alek Manoah, the Blue Jays bullpen, whether or not it's time to make a dramatic change to the roster, and all that in this episode. But first, guys, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Anywhere you can find your podcast, you can find Buds and Blue Jays, so please make sure you stick around and stay with us all day long. Jesse, now that we have you here, I want to get things started right off the top. The Toronto Blue Jays now 5th in the division. We're 3 games below 500. Things are looking very bleak. How do we fix this? Is it going to be a coaching change? Is it just going to be our players playing better? We tried to shake up the lineup, honestly, and John Schneider didn't really do too much to do with that. How do we fix this Toronto Blue Jays team?
I definitely want to say we need to shake up the management, because ever since the whole Minnesota issue, I feel like Schneider is scared to pull pitchers when they need to be pulled and putting in the wrong pitchers in the wrong situations.
I mean, a lot of it comes down to our bullpen is just so bad. Like, we saw Kevin Gausman go 117 pitches in this series because he, frankly, didn't trust the bullpen there. But we'll touch on that and stuff going into this thing here. My question is, and it's a popular one along Toronto Blue Jays fans everywhere, is if you do fire John Schneider, 2 things, I suppose. 1, if you replace him with Don Mattingly or DeMarlo Hale, are things really going to be any different? It's the same voices these players hear all the time. It might give you a spark for a week, but ultimately, I don't think the core of this Jays team is going to change. And 2, I don't think you can fire John Schneider unless you also fire your general manager, because this would be the 4th different coach that your general manager would have access to, and you just don't give a GM that amount of run. So I don't think John Schneider is actually going to be fired unless they do a whole massive shakeup with the front office here.
No, I totally agree with you on that. The only way I can see it happening is if they do what they did with John Gibbons the first time around, when they took him out and brought in Cito and all his staff and changed the whole dynamic, even when it came to the hitting, pitching, and all that.
Right, and that would make a lot of sense. You'd have to find the right guy, but at that point, I think you are getting desperate if you're John Schneider, if you're Ross Atkins, if you're Mark Shapiro, if you're the management group and you decide to go that route with this Toronto Blue Jays team, you are basically, it's a panic. They have hit the panic button if that's going to happen here. And we mentioned, Riley and I, on last week's episode, that we were starting to get worries. There was a sense of urgency, at least from guys like John Schneider now. And I said, give it about 2 weeks' time. If things don't change, you are going to see dramatic changes for this Toronto Blue Jays team. How do you feel about that? Is it time for you to hit the panic button on this team and in this season?
I've been hanging it since the Yankee series and the second series of the season. Just, you can't stop a lead. You give up a lead. You can't come back from behind.
Right.
And when you want to be clutch, there's nowhere to be found.
So, the 3 or 4 things that are supposed to be good for a baseball team, the Blue Jays simply just aren't doing that right now.
Nope. It's, as bad as it sounds, even Oakland is better than us right now.
It's true, actually. We talked pre-show that I think, aside from the stuff that's going on off the field, I think I'd rather be the Oakland A's right now than the Toronto Blue Jays, and that's saying something tough about the way this team looks at the moment. I wanted to go on, and I wanted to say here that I think changes might be coming. And I think it can't be small changes like, oh, the pitchers now throw a cutter that has like 1 more inch of movement. Like the changes the Toronto Blue Jays need to make right now needs to be visual. So like my grandma, who only watches, say, 30 some Blue Jays games a year, can sit there and be like, oh, this Toronto Blue Jays team is doing something different now. Like there needs to be dramatic enough changes. People need to play with some fire under their belt. Like people need to know stuff is getting serious, because this team right now looks like the same it was last year with the mediocre offseason that we had. It doesn't look like there's anything notable difference. And it's like, it's insanity. Running back the same things, the same lineup, and expecting different results is absolutely insanity for the Toronto Blue Jays. And I think we need to see changes within the next 2 weeks, or else it's time to full on fire sale, move everyone, trade assets, build a farm system that frankly has been depleted with talent. And the Blue Jays haven't proved they can develop talent anyway from their farm system. It's time to let things go. So that's where I think we are with the state of the current Toronto Blue Jays team.
Oh, I 100% agree. Like I've been saying to you, like since the Yankee series, just hit the R. Let's start the R button. It's Groundhog Day. Like it's the same stuff, different day. Like nothing's going to change.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. Like there's no hope coming up from the like. You can call up Elvis Martinez, I guess, but unless he goes on a Davis Schneider-esque run like he did last year, like I don't think that's going to dramatically help your team. This team has no pitching depth. Like Alek Manoah started. We'll touch on it a little more later in this episode, but like the Jays couldn't go a bullpen day because of how bad their bullpen has been. Their only other option has been Paulo Espino, who I don't know if you looked at his stats. I think he has an ERA over 6 and a WHIP over 2 in Buffalo. Like that's not going to be a guy to get you out. I think they called up Alek Manoah out of sheer desperation. Like this team is grasping at straws right now. Like there's really, it genuinely feels hopeless for the Toronto Blue Jays at this moment.
Oh, it almost feels like a lost cause right now. Like Espino, yeah, he could have done something, but he's been garbage ever since he went back down. Mm-hmm. And literally the Jays are like in the deep end with floaties, and the floaties are losing air.
So we're drowning is basically what you're getting at here.
Pretty much.
Oh, that's tough. That is a very tough look for our Toronto Blue Jays team here. Let's get into exactly the reasoning that happened here. The Blue Jays did win a game in this series, but it even felt like the Washington Nationals in game 1 were just literally making error after error after error. The Blue Jays scored 4 in the first, and then we didn't score another run until I think it was the 8th, until Kevin Kiermaier hit a 2-run home run. So even in that game where we scored 6 runs, it felt like our Toronto Blue Jays offense wasn't quite there. And Nationals made it close. We did have to get some clutch outs from our bullpen to get there. And then in game 2 and game 3, we took a 6-1 lead. Vlad hits a grand slam and everything's thinking, hey, we've got some good things going on. And then ultimately we lose that game 11-8. Very tough look against the Washington Nationals here. Let's talk about the bullpen, because I think this might be the single most surprising thing for the Toronto Blue Jays this season, is because we all thought, hey, the bullpen should be good. Romano's a stud. Jimmy Garcia looked great in spring. Tim Meza had been nothing but consistency. You know, they had all these depth pieces too. The Blue Jays as a team ranked 30th, dead last in bullpen performance, 5.31 ERA, 5.28 FIP, which is 30th. We've given up the most home runs per 9. We've given up the most hard hit percentage, the most barrel percentage. In fact, our bullpen has given us negative 1.3 WAR on the season, and that's with Jimmy Garcia pitching dominant out there. You take him out of the equation, our bullpen ERA is just shy of 6 for this season. That is a major yikes. And the fact, like, one of the big ways a team with high expectations can underperform what they do is having a terrible bullpen. And with the Blue Jays not hitting and the bullpen being this bad, it's going to be a long season for the Toronto Blue Jays if this continues.
Oh, I don't even call it a bullpen anymore. It's now the blowpen, because we have a lead and you have a lead and it's gone. Like it's almost like, well, here's the loss. Once our starters come out, because all our starters have to be perfect and throw almost 120 pitches like Gosman did, and we still barely win.
You know
and,
what I find? Go ahead.
And also have 4 errors given to us by the mediocre defense of the Nationals.
You know what I find very funny? Funny is the wrong word, but very interesting in this series is that we had an off day coming into the series, and we have an off day today, so leaving the series. So you had 2 off days surrounding this 3-game series against the Washington Nationals. And yet after game 2, John Schneider needed to rely on Manoah to get a lot of outs because the bullpen was quote unquote tired and terrible. It's like, man, that is a very tough look. Let's get into the individual players a little bit. First one, Eric Swanson. who Riley and I talked about it last episode a little bit, and nothing's really changed. He has an ERA over 18. I've never seen more hanging splitters in my life than I've seen with this past 3 weeks of Erik Swanson pitching. It has not been good. He's not getting that bite, that dip that we see with Kevin Gausman's splitter where it just dips under the bats. It's not happening. And I'm sorry, if you are giving up home runs to Eddie Rosario, who, hey, good major league hitter, has had a good major league career, but he was 0 for 36 before coming into this series, and then all of a sudden he comes through and he hits home runs off you. That's a tough look for Erik Swanson. I almost feel like you need to get him off the mound. You need something to get his confidence back, or else it's just going to continue and it's going to snowball.
100% agree. He's either still hurt or Schneider doesn't know not to put him in high leverage, because every time he's been giving these 3-run home runs, solo home runs, is when we need him to be his best. And if you watch his splitter, compared to Gausman, his actually stays in the zone, where whenever Gausman throws his, it's never in the zone. And that's the key about a splitter. It can't be in the zone.
Because if it's up, it doesn't move as much, and it's very hittable here too. Going back to your point, in game one, it just felt like John Schneider just thought, okay, it's the time. It's Erik Swanson's turn to pitch. Just roll him out there. It felt like he didn't look at anything else there and go on. It felt like, okay, 8th inning, Erik Swanson's time to pitch. Get out there, and I don't care about the results. And I didn't like that feeling.
No, I don't either. He just puts them out to say, oh, I know they're good at this time. If they're struggling, you can change stuff up. And that's the thing with Schneider. He's scared to do ballsy moves ever since that Minnesota wildcard series. And I keep going back to that. And ever since then, he's scared to make the proper move.
Which is tough. You want a manager who's confident and is able to make the right decisions here. And I don't think we have full confidence that John Schneider is that guy. But again, Tim Mesa's not pitching well. Genesis Cabrera's not pitching well. There are other guys. Jordan Romano even has an ERA over 4. He seems like he's been giving up home runs in bunches too. It's a real tough look. Jimmy Garcia has been the only one. Look, Zach Pop has come in, and I thought he's looked okay. Nate Pearson been inconsistent. Trevor Richards has been fine. But it's, Hagen Danner's looked okay in Buffalo. I really don't even see a guy who can come up from Buffalo and can really help stabilize this bullpen. I think we're just going to ride the wave with what we got, and it might sink our team.
I totally agree. I was hearing on it at the letters. Right now, at the time of the season, we're kind of frozen because you can't make the drastic moves because no one's selling right now.
Yeah.
But you can't sell anything or change a roster really because it's like a stuck zone, gray zone. There's not really much you can do unless you're going to sell your farm system, which we don't have.
Right. And that's why I really think these next 2 weeks for the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be very telling to see what direction this team goes in. Let's talk a little bit about offense in this series, and let's start with Bo Bichette. And I think some of the reason why this Blue Jays team has struggled to where we've gotten too far has been the performance of Bo Bichette. Riley and I have talked about it several times before. If you're a Blue Jays fan, you know the struggles of Bo Bichette. In this series against Washington, a team with subpar pitching, a team that Bo Bichette should hit well, 1 for 11 in this series. He even got ejected in this one, threw down his helmet. At least we're seeing some fire from Bo Bichette, which I think is very nice to see. But also, he hasn't had an extra base hit since April 22nd. It's been a long time since Bo Bichette has really done much damage at all. And it's looking under the hood, this chase rate seems to be about the same as it was in years past. Everything else seems to be okay. It's just literally a quality of contact issue. He's just not putting the barrel on the baseball. It's as simple as that. I like to think that means it'll turn around, but he needs a confidence boost badly in the worst way right now.
100%. The only thing that's good about him this year was showing passion and not smiling or laughing like a certain player on the roster. Y'all can figure out who I'm talking about. And actually showing that he gives a beep about the games and the outcomes and wants to win.
There was a point in this series where you're watching it on TV and it showed Bo Bichette in the dugout and he was just kind of gazing off into the sky. Guy looked lost. I don't know if he was contemplating his feelings or whether he wanted to be here or whether it's he's contemplating his own death or whatever it may be. It felt like Bo Bichette just seemed to be lost in the world, and we need to find something to spark him. And I don't know if that comes from within the player or if it's going to come from outside of the organization. But Bo Bichette, we know the talent's still in there. We just need to find that click to get him going. And I personally don't know how you do that.
Oh, we need that September, that run he had a couple of Septembers ago where he was the best hitter on the face of Earth. And another thing I was reading and heard, ever since Dante Bichette left, everyone's numbers have changed drastically. Is it because of a psyche without him there? I don't know, but it's just been a tire fire. Like literally, just the offense disappeared after Dante Bichette left.
Yeah, we did mention that actually last episode, that the Blue Jays offense has not looked the same since that time. Now, different players on the team and stuff, sure, but like maybe it's been the change of philosophy that just simply is not working for this Toronto Blue Jays team, which is another part of the reason why maybe I think we got to get rid of all the other changes that go on there with the front office and the hitting coaches and all that stuff and yada, yada. But that might be a conversation for the other day. The other big story that come out of this series, Jesse, is that Alek Manoah is back. And he was coming off his last good start in Buffalo where he struck out 12. So people thought, okay, maybe there's a good glimmer of hope for Alek Manoah. We got his first look here. The final line, 4 innings pitched, 7 runs, 6 of them earned, 6 hits, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts. He also hit a few batters as well. The line was not good. It was a very mixed bag. He gave up some runs in the first, gave up some walks, but was able to limit the damage. Then in the second inning, Alek Manoah comes up, and I think he struck out the side in the second. So we're sitting there thinking, okay, Manoah's got 5 Ks through 2 innings. You know, the stuff doesn't look great, but it doesn't look terrible. Maybe there's something here. And then it all fell apart again in classic Alek Manoah style. That fastball was being missed arm side. It wasn't even close. I think Alejandro Kirk, too, actually bought Alek Manoah a lot of strikes. So I really think that this line could have been even worse than it did. Two things, I suppose, Jesse. What was your first reaction to seeing Alek Manoah's first time on a mound in years? And what's the plan with him going forward?
It was nice to see him back up. I thought it was a little too soon, but desperate times calls for desperate measures.
Yep.
That second inning, I thought it was going to be the return of 2022 Manoah. Like he just looked like his old self. Mm-hmm. Then, yet again, I'm going to say it. Josh Schneider left him in too long.
I think you're right. When it was second and third there, before I think it was before the Winker home run for sure, but before the single that drove in 2 before then, I think that's the time he should have been pulled. I agree.
I agree on that. And like that was the third time Winker's seen him. Winker's a veteran. Yes, he's not an elite hitter, but how many times do they pull Kikuchi or any other pitchers before the third time round? And now he leaves Manoah, who hasn't been able to can't even throw a beach ball for a strike most of the time.
Right. And I think you'd want to get, if anything, you want to get Manoah's confidence. You want to make him leave on a good note, like leaving after he gives up 7 earned runs. And then after he just gave up that bomb, his confidence is going to be shot a little bit. You want to at least give him something to build on. If you are going to give him more time in here, you want him to be feeling good about something. So there's that, at least. Post-game, I listened to Alek Manoah's comments. A lot of it was like, I just got to be more aggressive. I just got to attack. John Schneider said post-game that Alek Manoah, he thought his stuff was good. But I was thinking about that today. Like, even if Alek Manoah's stuff is good, that slider's not even close to what it was in 2021 and 2022. It's maybe better than last year, but that's not setting a high bar. And like, even if his stuff is there, like his fastball's still only going to be 95 at most, right? That's as far as it's going to be. And it's just, I don't understand how good it can really be. The Blue Jays need stability out of their 5th spot. They need like what Charlie Morton's doing or what, I don't know, Drew Smiley has done for years. Like a guy who can just come in, pitch you 5 innings, give up 2 runs. You know what you're going to get and get on the day. And Alek Manoah's not it. I'm sorry.
Oh, he's definitely, there's no consistency. Like it could be like the start last year against the Tigers. He looked great. Next start, awful. It's like we need, and almost like kind of how Kikuchi was his first year. He would have a decent start and then completely fall off the rails. And then like they were talking about how his hands are lower and helps his delivery. His delivery looked the same as every other, like the last few years. Just a little bit, just his hands are lower. There's no change, in my opinion.
This has bothered me as a thing. Like, I'm not a pitching coach, but when you watch Manoah pitch, his front foot, like if you watch his plant foot, it's pointing into the third base dugout. Like, isn't the first thing they teach you is you put that front foot towards home plate so you can line your mechanics up to generate towards home plate? It's one of the first things they teach you when you learn how to pitch. And it's I don't know, like the coaches know more than I do, but it just seems like he's way off for Alek Manoah. But there's obviously more to it than just that. Let's talk about some of the other starting pitchers in this rotation. Yusei Kikuchi, I thought was fine. 6 innings pitched, 6 hits. Threw his curveball more. We saw the velocity gains from Yusei Kikuchi again. He hit as high as 98. I was encouraged by Yusei Kikuchi's start. And in fact, I was probably more encouraged by Kevin Gausman's start in this series. I don't have the line here, but I know he threw 117 pitches. His splitter got that bite again. We hadn't been seeing that swing and miss so much on the splitter, and he did go fastball splitter heavy in this one. I think that splitter had a 44% whiff rate, which is the number we are used to seeing from Kevin Gausman. I feel like he's not quite back yet, but the signs are there that he is getting closer to being dominant and going on that run again. So I was actually really encouraged by the other 2 starters in this series.
Oh, 100%. As the joke I always say with Kikuchi, ever since I apologized to you, but after that first year, I call him Yu Cy Young. Yeah, just because like he's been one of the best pitchers since the All-Star break last year, and it's continued, and if not better than he was even last year. And when it comes to Gausman, he had 8 Ks. Yeah, he threw 120 pitches, but the amount of chases he had with that splitter, it actually looked like the old Gausman before, like not compared to that Yankee series or in the other series, even in the Dodger series I was at, he looked phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And it's just so promising. Like seeing those two, it's like, and even Bassett, yes, he got shelled his last outing, but like, and even Berrios, they are all have to pitch perfect because of the blow pen, and that's not fair to them because that's going to do damage to them.
And look, I like Chris Bassett. We talked about that last episode when both Bassett and Berrios had mentioned, like, we feel like we need to be perfect because the offense isn't scoring us runs and we're not confident in the bullpen behind them. But didn't really seem to be the case in this series here. Moving on to some other things. Look, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., as much as we've given him some crap on this show before, he did hit a grand slam. It was a 2-1 pitch after watching a Mackenzie Gore fastball right down the pipe 2-0 that he just took and froze on. He then hit the changeup, which Vladdy has been sitting off speed a lot this year. Like, there has been so many times he's been late on that fastball. I don't know why that is. I'm convinced it's coaching, right? Like, I think there's someone telling him that, yeah, you sit on the fastball, react, or sit on the off-speed, react fastball. So maybe that's it. But hey, he got a hanging off-speed pitch and he crushed it. Grand slam, Blue Jays' second grand slam of the season. Very important to see. He's quietly on an 8-game hit streak too. So good things from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. His OPS is now over 700. Maybe it's a sign of him turning things around.
Let's hope, but I definitely can say we'll see him do the fake coat after that grand slam. Man, that was exciting, but then the rest was history.
Rest was indeed history. It's we will see how things go. He's got the Phillies. He's hit well against some of these Phillies starter. I'm hoping this is a start. I have a futures bet in for Vlad to win MVP that I'm not cashing out yet. I still think there is a massive run in Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s future. In fact, I just traded for him in my fantasy team, so we'll give that a go. Jesse, do you have a take on John Schneider saying he was going to change the lineup around? And he kind of did in this series. He moved Bo Bichette to 5. He moved Dalton Varsho up to 2. And that lasted 1 game before the next game and game 3 of the series when they had Bo in the top. And the top 4 was still the same. Still Springer, Vlad, Turner, Bichette in some order. Do you have a take on this? Think it matters?
If you're going to shake the lineup, shake the lineup. What I don't understand is Springer is not a leadoff hitter anymore. Like, he's more strikeouts, more negative than positive at the top of the order. Put someone like Davis Schneider there who can actually turn on a fastball and just is solid all around. Mm-hmm. Bring up Jansen. Why don't you bring up Jansen instead of putting him down to 7? I didn't understand that one. Jansen's been on a heater since he's come back from an injury. He's all near the top in home runs, and he's played way less games than everyone else. Why is he hitting so low?
I agree with you 1,000%. I actually looked up some stats on Danny Jansen last night. His WRC plus and his WOBA for anyone in baseball, minimum 40 games played, is second best in all of baseball. Like, that is how good Danny Jansen has been. Even his outs in this series, deep fly balls to center field. He roped one to the right center field gap. His ground balls are even hit hard. Like, Danny Jansen looks like not only one of the best hitters on the Blue Jays, he might be one of the best hitters in the league right now. And it might just be a hot streak. We've seen enough of Danny Jansen to know this might not be sustainable. But if he's hot right now, take advantage of him being hot right now. This has been like our biggest gripe with John Schneider, is that he doesn't play the guys that are hot. I agree with you, man. Put the guys who are hitting, cluster them all together. Hope you can score one run with that cluster. Do that 4 times in a game. Your offense is already better than what you've shown so far. I agree with you.
Exactly. And like Jansen even says, I'm a pull hitter. I'm going to meet it out front. I'm not going the other way. I know I can't go the other way. I'm going to pull the ball. It's almost like the mindset that he got from Marcus Semien when he was on the Jays. And ever since then, I've never, like, no one has hit the ball with more power on the pull side than not even Vladdy. Vladdy's more of a ground ball hitter.
Yeah, and actually, when I saw Vlad hit that home run, that grand slam, I was like, wow, he pulled it. That was like literally my first reaction I had.
Oh, I was shocked. I was like, he pulled the ball in the air. There's a miracle.
Yeah. It was good to see. The Blue Jays need more of that. Vladdy actually does that more than you think, but compared to the rest of the Toronto Blue Jays, it's abysmal. But yeah, throw some love to Danny Jansen. I want to see him do that a little more. The thing that maybe I shouldn't mention it here, but I will. Mike Zunino did a lot of that, and Danny Jansen kind of mimics his game off Mike Zunino. But the fact that he had to go outside of the organization to pick up that skill and go through it is just, it speaks on the Blue Jays organization. But maybe that's a story for the offseason. Some other notes of interest that caught my attention this series. We welcomed back Kevin Kiermaier, sent down Addison Barger with Nathan Lucas was here for an hour and a half before he went back down. Kevin Kiermaier did hit his first home run of the season. It was a wall scraper, but hey, he hit a mistake. That's all you need from Kevin Kiermaier. Maybe if he can do that a little bit more in this series. Ernie Clement hit a triple. Very nice. Happy to see that. Davis Schneider stole third base. And you mentioned before the show here that the Blue Jays were making some interesting swing decisions when guys were trying to steal some bags. Maybe you just kind of let them play through. And tell me more about that.
Yeah, like I noticed a couple of times when Ernie was trying to make the steal second when he got on base, and even with his rare walk of the second walk of the whole season. George figures out the bat. He's going for second, just swings through a fastball way out of the zone, end of the inning. It's like I saw Kirk. He was up to bat when Varsho was on first. Took a pitch to make sure Varsho got to second. Like, why are we not doing that? Like, I know you hate small ball, but small ball can't help you win. Look at the Nationals with all their stolen bases, the Reds, all these elite stealing teams. They know don't swing at everything. Let your speed change the game.
Well, Jesse, to your defense, I don't think the Blue Jays can play smaller ball on offense than what they're playing right now. You know, they're trying to swing for the fences. They're not even doing that. So, I mean, try something to spark some runs across. And actually, going back to the Kansas City series last time when it was scoreless in the 6th and the Kansas City Royals tried to bunt to get a runner over to play for one run, like that is their team telling you, we don't think the Blue Jays are scoring more than one run this game. That's why we only need one run to win. And I think that other teams around baseball are picking up on that, and it's really affecting the Toronto Blue Jays here.
No, exactly. Like, they haven't had a comeback win more than 2 runs since last year. They did
in the first game against Kansas City. They went down 2-0 in the first and won 6-5. It was the first time this year that happened, though.
But yeah, that was early in the game, but it wasn't in the 8th or 9th inning. They have not scored a comeback more than 2 runs since last year. So it's like I don't even know. Like, I think they're allergic to being clutch.
They're allergic to a lot more than that, my guy. It is not good. Vibes are very low for the Toronto Blue Jays right now. And you know what? Off day today. Tomorrow, we go to Philadelphia, who I believe might have the best record in baseball. If not, they're top 5. They are very well up there. We got to face Aaron Nola. We got to face Christopher Sanchez. How are we going to do, man? Do we have a chance? Are we winning one of these 2 games? We do have Barrios and Bassett going for us, which is a good sign, but how are we going to fare in this 2-game series against the Phillies?
If we can't score more than 5 runs, I don't see it happening, especially giving assurance for our pitchers, and also knowing the Phillies are have the best home record and are on a heater instance part, and seeing how that place is in the playoffs, I'm scared. And just that lineup with Schwarber, Realmuto, I know Turner's out right now with the injury, but just all those
Alec Bohm is hitting 390 right now.
No, exactly. All these players that are learn from their playoffs and bring it to the season, and all the leadership there. That's something I still feel the Jays are missing. We don't have a leadership. Our best hitters the last 2 years, Brandon Belt and Justin Turner, both are older players, and all these young players can't learn anything from them or take their advice. It feels like it's like I said earlier in this show, Groundhog Day. Same stuff, different pile.
Mm-hmm. And that's why things need to visibly look different, or else we're going to come back here after the Phillies series. We're going to come back here after. It's going to be more of the same. Worth noted, and this is not going to make any Blue Jays fan feel any better, but our next few series coming up, we have Philadelphia this week. On the weekend, we welcome in the Minnesota Twins, who I think have also been one of the hottest teams in all of baseball. They just went on a massive double-digit game win streak. And then we go on the road to play the Baltimore Orioles. So it's a tough stretch of games here. We don't actually have a quote-unquote weak opponent until we welcome in the Chicago White Sox 2 weeks from now. And even I'm not that confident that we can really do well against the White Sox. So it's going to be another tough stretch. These 2 weeks are going to, I don't want to say it because it is still the first week of May, but it's going to make or break the Toronto Blue Jays season, this 2 week stretch.
I 100% agree. And even the White Sox swept the Rays, and
yeah, true.
The Rays are ahead of us. So, like, it's not a pause. It's not good vibes. That's why, like I've been saying to you through text, and that I'm on a Blue Jays protest. Why I'm wearing Buffalo Bison stuff, because I feel like the Bisons actually give more entertainment and positivity than unfortunately the Blue Jays.
Hey, if the Toronto Blue Jays do end up having to sell and move some players, we will have a Bison segment almost every episode, and we will talk in there, and we will make sure we call on you, our honorary Buffalo Bisons correspondent, to come up and give us an update. That'll do it for our episode here today, guys. A sad one, a downer. Jesse, I'd love to have you on, and I'd love to talk some very exciting stuff, but, you know, it's not really exciting to be a Toronto sports fan in general right now. But, hey, Leafs, we feel your pain. Blue Jays land isn't too much better over here either.
No, exactly. And like normally in real life, the Leafs fall, so they do it in hockey. The Jays are supposed to come back north when it's warm. They're staying down south in spring training.
Yeah, seems to be that way. Well, we will be back after the series with the Phillies. Riley McConnell is still off. He is on vacation. And honestly, I do have a message from Riley, though. He wanted to add in some of his thoughts. First one, he's like, that's exactly what I expected from Alek Manoah. No news there. And then he goes, Bo is in his head. He needs a tough time. He's not so confident. He's turning around. And there's an off day today. Riley thinks nothing good ever happens on off days. Maybe we'll get some Blue Jays news related earlier this day. Jesse, anything else to add before we get out of here today?
No, just always a pleasure being back on here, my guy. And hope to be back on sooner than later.
You bet, and we'll have you to it. For those of you, thank you for listening. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all the social medias, and wherever you can find your podcasts, you can find Buds and Blue Jays. Until then, we'll see you next week. Let's go Blue Jays.
Let's go Bisons.